Okay, so it looks like on my end, I am sharing the presentation and the webinar has started. So welcome everyone and anyone who is joining us this evening. Gonna start the formal presentation and today's session in a minute or two, just give a chance for those of you that are still kind of trickling in to join us. But I do want to thank you and welcome you to this session. We're gonna learn a lot about not only Worcester, but diversity and inclusion at Worcester. You're gonna be able to hear from some great students that we have on campus and just hear their perspectives and their experiences as well, okay? So bear with us for a moment and thank you for joining us. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and begin. Do you have my presentation going? All right, so now the first thing that I want to mention is that we are going to be using the chat feature and the Q&A feature. I do have one of my colleagues with me here today that is going to be regularly checking the chat and the Q&A just to see any questions, concerns that you have. Remember, the Q&A portion of this evening is going to be in large part to your contribution and your questions, because we do have a subset of questions that we're going to be kind of asking some of our current students, but we always want to see what are your concerns, what are you looking to get answered, and that would just make the overall Q&A session a lot more dynamic and a lot more interactive. Okay, so yeah, be sure to utilize both. If you're tuning in on your phone, if you're on your laptop or computer, just make sure that you know where to go to ask those questions. Okay. All right, so welcome. My name is Alex Dominguez. I am a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions, as well as the Coordinator for Multicultural Recruitment. Now, primarily, I do work with first-year students in Illinois, New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin, but we always like to be a very kind of hands-on office where if students are, calling our office or they come to visit and they have any questions, concerns, and we happen to be the staff member, in the office or the ones that are meeting with them, we tend to work with students from all over the place, not just from our designated territories. But if you happen to be from one of these states, if you are getting emails, questions, or are working through your application, chances are you're going to be getting a lot of correspondence from me. So just to kind of put a face to a name, this is who I am, and I am glad that you are here. All right, so we kind of went through this new process in our office where we wanted to be more intentional with diversity and inclusion. And because of that, we formulated this inclusivity statement to make sure that we're very transparent with what we're trying to accomplish, what we are trying to have as the forefront of our interactions with prospective students, with current students. And in doing so, this inclusivity statement kind of came to light. And at Worcester, we are creating a diverse, equitable, welcoming, and inclusive campus community. That is a top priority for us. Our students, faculty, staff, and visitors of all races, ethnicities, nationalities, faiths, sexual orientations, gender identities, socioeconomic circumstances, and all facets of what diversity is really all about are welcome on our campus, as visiting students, as visiting families, but also as attending students and families. We respect and value the commonalities and differences among us. And I think by, celebrating the uniqueness that each individual has and recognizing that, the world is really made up of different perspectives and different ideas, that really makes for a thriving college community and college environment. So that's just our pledge, our stance against, hate, against inequality as a whole, and just really trying to create and promote a safe campus environment for all students and all people that are visiting us. All right, so let's get started with a few quick facts about Worcester. So if you don't know too much about us, I do want to start off by saying that we are a small private liberal arts college in Northeast Ohio. We have about 2,000 undergraduate students, a little bit on the small side. But I think there's a lot of great benefits from that. I mean, students do get a personalized attention when it comes to their academics. We are fairly residential with 99% of our students living on campus. So that in itself brings a lot of great social opportunities for students to really get involved with different organizations and just interacting with their peers. Um, and for us at Worcester, we really think it's an ideal environment to grow academically and socially. Being so close to a lot of people. Now, a few of the numbers that I do also want to kind of focus and look at. We, like I mentioned, diversity is a very big piece of who we are and what we try to promote. 70% of our students do come from out of state. So we are pretty well represented from students all over the country. And we do have 70% of our student body coming from international backgrounds. That percentage actually has garnered us the second most internationalized college campus in the state of Ohio and 16th highest in the nation. So, we really pride ourselves on being able to reach students from all over the globe. But again, it just allows students to kind of learn and interact with people with different points of views, with different ideas, different beliefs. A number that we're always trying to grow and improve is the quarter of our students that are domestic students of color. And, like I mentioned, I work with students in Illinois, Eastern Pennsylvania, so cities like Chicago, Philadelphia. That is going to be a very big part of where I'm trying to reach out. There is a wealth of diversity in this country, and I want to make sure that students are not only aware of the different opportunities that are out there for them, but all the resources that are available to them as well. So as you can see, like I mentioned, we are pretty well represented in terms of the US with 46 different states. That number of 65 countries is actually closer to 70 now. So that's something that we're very proud of as well. We're a smaller school, but it is a very beautiful and lush campus with over 240 acres, a beautiful golf course, excellent athletic facilities, but the campus itself is very walkable, very accessible. Students can easily go from one of their classroom buildings to another in a relatively short period of time. There's also a great blend of facilities on campus. I mean, this building right here is one of our more traditional buildings. It's the first academic building that we had on campus. And it just showcases some of the more traditional aspects of Worcester. But we also have a few buildings on campus that have either been, recently renovated. Williams Hall, for example, of Life Sciences is one of the most beautiful modern buildings that I've seen on a college campus, especially the middle connecting section called Knowlton Commons. I mean, it features 2 stories of windows that overlooks the academic quad. It's just a beautiful piece of space for students. And a nice, like I said, a nice blend between the traditional and the modern. Another great benefit of being a smaller school is our student to faculty ratio, 10 to 1. You're going to be in a classroom where you have the ability and the opportunity to get to know your professors, you get to work with them, you get to interact with classmates in a much more intimate and personal setting. And another big piece of it is we don't have any teaching assistants teaching the actual courses. Every professor that you have will most likely be at their terminal degree of knowledge. So, highly knowledgeable in their field, tons of experience, years of experience within their field. So you're learning from someone that has completely devoted their career and their academic experience to teaching you, whatever it is that you're interested in studying. So these are just some quick numbers of Worcester, who we are, and kind of giving you a glimpse of what to expect in terms of the campus, the student body, and what we truly value on our campus. Okay. Now, we're going to really focus on the Q&A aspect of this session. But if there is one thing or 3 things that I want you to kind of keep in mind as you go through your college search process, as you continue to learn a little bit more about Worcester or just colleges in general, these are the 3 major facets or pillars of who we are as an institution. We are America's premier college for mentored undergraduate research experiences, as well as senior capstone experience. We have this great opportunity in a student senior called independent study, senior IS. That is a great opportunity for students to not only work with the professors one-on-one, they pretty much get this culminating experience that brings everything full circle, that brings everything kind of to a close over the course of 4 years. And that's just one experience. Students in their freshman, sophomore, and junior years have the experience and the opportunity to grow academically through different research experiences. So, that's something that we really pride ourselves on academically. Going back to diversity and the international nature of our college, I think Worcester is a global campus, and not only a global campus, but a really thriving one, because there's one thing to have diverse perspectives and to have different people, but then there's a whole nother thing to really embrace the differences, embrace different cultures, and showcase them in a very positive way, and have the willingness to interact with each other and have a conversation with each other. Because I think, in this country and in various places of this country, that kind of dialogue just doesn't happen that regularly. And I really have enjoyed the opportunities that students are, really willing to share who they are, what they bring to campus, but learn about different cultures and about different people. So yeah, a global campus, but a very thriving campus and community as well. And then the last piece, the local opportunities. I mean, the city of Worcester has just enough people to classify as a city, but it is a very vibrant city. It's small and mighty, it's a micropolitan, but there are so many different restaurants, shops, just very unique local establishments for students to go to and to utilize. So that already provides so many social opportunities to just interact with each other. But being a county hub that Worcester is, there are still plenty of service learning experiences and different internship opportunities as well in the city. So that just showcases a little bit about how the city of Worcester really plays a role in providing students a well-rounded collegiate experience, not just with the academics and with the campus environment. So the city of Worcester is a great place. It's about a mile walk from campus. The students can regularly get there in about 10-15 minutes walk. So yeah, these three pillars I think are great pieces of what makes Worcester a great place. And you'll learn a little bit more through your research, through your college search process, and hearing from our current students how this kind of resonates and intertwines through different experiences. Okay. Now remember, if you have any questions, concerns, not just about the Q&A that we're going to have a little bit later, but about what you hear through this introduction of Worcester, again, make sure to utilize the chat and the Q&A feature, okay? All right. So a great resource on campus is our Center for Diversity and Inclusion. Now, we do have a few kind of sections or departments within the CDI building on campus, one of them being multicultural student affairs, the second one being religious and spiritual life, third one is sexuality and gender inclusion, and we do have a fourth, and I quickly want to highlight that, the international student services. Now, those four different sections have a dedicated number of staff members that are available to students as resources, but they have things like different programming, different events, just different ways that they can allow students to feel like they have a space on campus, but also that they're getting involved on campus. So, these are just a few of the things that each different department kind of does. You can kind of see right here. And you'll hear from our current students that are involved on campus that a lot of these experiences are something that they have done, and also something that they are regularly involved in. So just wait to hear a little bit more from our current students in terms of how they not only have utilized the CDI, but also have really incorporated the different events, programs that they have through CDI into their own college experience. All right, now it all couldn't fit in one slide for 4 sections. So this is a little bit about the international student services that we do have. They in their department. They help international students through their own specific orientation. They have a full international education week. They also have a great cultural show that has people from a wide variety of cultures from around the world, perform either through dance, through different cultural performances, just to showcase and really celebrate the different cultures that are on our campus. So it's a great week. It's a great show and a great opportunity for students that aren't from an international backgrounds to get familiarized and exposed to some of the different people that are on our campus. All right. Now, the great thing about being a college that really welcomes and supports students from a diverse and inclusion standpoint is that we do have a lot of multicultural student organizations. Now, these are just a few of the examples of the organizations that we do have. So our students can get involved in one or more of these organizations, but I do want to highlight that these are just a subset of programs and organizations that we have. In total, we have more than 130 different student-run organizations, which for a school our size, it's pretty amazing that we can have that many different organizations for students. And we regularly every semester have a student activities fair. So new students can go and see just what is available on campus and what they can get involved in. I myself, as a new staff member, was able to attend that activities fair, and just seeing students that were very passionate about where they're involved and what they do was just great to see. And a lot of the students were in different areas or different tables at the same time, like they jumped from one to the other. So there's definitely a lot of multi kind of faceted involvement on our campus. And again, that's great to see. All right. So I did try to go a little bit, quick with the intro, but I did want to make sure I left enough time to give you a very brief but informative introduction to who we are as a college, what we have to offer, especially when it comes to diversity and inclusion and different resources and organizations. But now we do want to move forward with the Q&A portion of this event, because I mean, as a prospective student, it's great to hear from admissions counselors and admissions folks like myself, but I definitely wanted to hear from students. So here are the next part of this event, okay? Now, again, stressing the importance of the Q&A. I have a few questions that I am going to ask our current students, but your input is going to be very important in the interactiveness of the Q&A feature, okay? All right, so the first step to making sure that you have the most immersive Q&A webinar, make sure that you, under your viewing options at the top of your screen, select the drop-down option where it says side-by-side mode, because that will allow you to view all the students, all the panelists. You can also select the speaker, the view right here where it goes from speaker to gallery. It pretty much gives all of our panelists a straight shot view to you, and the ability for you to see them as they speak without having to jump from one student to the next, okay? And without further ado, can we start with our first panelist?
Hi, everyone. My name is Doug Morris. I'm a senior neurobiology major and music minor from Peachtree City, Georgia. I am the chairperson of the Social Justice and Equity Committee on our student government here. I'm also part of the a cappella group, and I'm part of the Wooster Chorus. I'm a health coach, and I am a TA and for 2 bio classes, and I'm a senior intern in the Office of Admissions.
Awesome. It's nice to have you here, Doug.
Hi, everybody. My name is Juliana Morales, but everybody can call me Julie. I am a psychology and sociology double major and currently actually working on getting a political science minor, see where that goes. I'm currently a junior. I use the she series pronouns and I'm from Chicago. I am a peer mediator in Pi Kappa, which is one of our sororities here in Worcester. I am vice president of communication for Latinas Unidas. It's just one of our multicultural organization here. I am a member of FGSO, which is First Generation Student Organization. I am also a co-captain in cheerleading here, which is really exciting because that's like the first positions now that we've been doing in cheer. I also am a part of other organizations like Women of Images. I am part of Create Her. I am part of all these other as a member, and it's super exciting. And I hope you guys have a lot of questions.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to have you too, Julie. All right, moving right along, Sean.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Gwena. I'm from Zimbabwe, economics major, computer science minor, pronouns he, him, his. On campus, I'm the vice president for Men of Harambee, which is a fraternal organization. And I'm also the co-founder of the Worcester Men's Volleyball Club. And I'm also a senior intern for the admissions office.
All right. Well, Sean, it's a pleasure to have you on as well. All right, Alexa.
Hi, my name is Alexa. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a global international studies and French double major. I'm originally from Toledo, Ohio. Some things that I do on campus is that I'm a tour guide at the admissions office. I'm an intern at the religious and spiritual life office. I'm a writing consultant, and I'm also part of Model United Nations, which is the club here on campus. So yeah.
Awesome. And last but not least.
Hi, I'm Micah. I use he, him, his, and they, them, theirs pronouns. Right now, I'm officially undeclared, but I'm definitely going to declare and be anthropology or like religious studies double major. I'm from Pittsburgh. I'm the treasurer for the Sexual Respect Coalition, which is an organization here that just focuses on like consent and everyday life within all different sorts of relationships. I'm a tour guide at admissions. I also work at the Underground with Julie. Oh yeah, Julie. We're crew, and also we do DJ sometimes. I'm really good DJ. And I also am involved with Worcester Mutual Aid and the Environmental Justice Coalition. I'm also in a different a cappella group, Cowbells. So that's what I do around here.
All right. Well, it is great to have all of you. As you can see, we have a great panel of students with us. And I guess we can, go right into the questions. And as someone that works in admissions, I try to really put myself back into the mind of a prospective student. And I don't want to age myself here. I try to still think that I'm relatively young. So I don't think it's too far-fetched to think of myself as a prospective student. But some of the things that really, resonated with me going through the college search process is just how unprepared I was as a student. I didn't have the opportunity or didn't have the knowledge to really ask the right questions, who to ask the right questions to. So, now that we have 5 different voices or 5 different, experience perspectives on this panel, can you just kind of, in the same order that you introduce yourself, or if someone wants to speak up first, walk us through what was your individual college search process like? What were some of the obstacles that you kind of faced along the way? Also, what were some of the hesitations on your part or your family's part when it came to doing your college search process?
Yeah, so when I was applying to colleges, I knew that I wanted to go far from home. I kind of outlived my time in Atlanta. So I was looking for mostly larger schools outside of Georgia. Worcester was the only small school that I applied to. And I ended up here and I love it now. But I had not seen myself at a small school before that. Really what drew me to Worcester was the opportunity to really get to know my peers and my professors and just know a lot of people's names on campus rather than just walking through day to day, not really knowing a ton of faces. One of my biggest, I guess, like what I hesitated with most going to school was the cost of going to a good school. And I think that's one thing that Worcester has a really good, they have a really good financial aid program and they have a lot of scholarship opportunities. So that's ultimately what sent me to Worcester.
Awesome. Well, before the next thing begins, I did not want to forget about our great director of recruitment and diversity outreach. He is in the background of this presentation. He also has a territory where he recruits and helps students from Central Ohio and Tennessee. Now, he isn't on the camera. I'm kind of taking the front person of this event, but he is in the background. Always happy to have him and be able to work with him. Our students know him and love him as well. So yeah, just know that I do have a great colleague helping me run this event and in the background. Okay, so just a shout out to David. All right, keep on going. I'm gonna have a few questions that or a few images that I'm gonna have kind of running in the background as our student panelists are talking. Okay, sorry for interrupting the flow of it, but continue.
Yeah, so for my process was actually kind of similar to Doug's. I outlived my time in Chicago, even though if I may come back after graduating, we'll never know. But I decided, okay, well, I'm in a big city and I need some type of adaptability. I need to adapt. I need to move on. I need to see new things, something that I'm very much out of my comfort zone. And where else other than being in the middle of nowhere, Ohio? And it's the best decision I've ever made. I'm not gonna lie. I have met so many cool people here. I got a very tight community with a bunch of my friends. I walk down the street and I can say hi to Doug. I can say hi to Micah, and I can say hi to everybody else, and it's really fun. And I would have never had that opportunity in Chicago, being in bigger universities, because I would have no friends, honestly. And I think for what I was looking at was a bunch of I wanted to be out of state. I did not want to stay in state. I did not want to I wanted to be different. So I went out. Ohio was the opportunity. Okay, cool. What's next? Financial aid. That was a big thing for me. Can I afford this? Can I not? It was a lot of the checklist style. So I had to figure that out. I had to be okay, what can Worcester give to me? What can I give to it? What are we doing here? What is this exchange? So it was a lot of who's benefiting who in this situation. And I was very much, and on top of it, I had my top 3 schools. Worcester was my top 3. I was looking into it. And then I went to the tours and stuff. And when I went to the tour, it was a lot of walking down the street and actually feeling like I can be a part of it and being a part of this community, because I would walk down the street with my tour guide and so many people would come up and say hi because they knew my tour guide, and they would say hi to her, and then they would look at me and be like, oh my god, are you looking to be in Worcester? We have this, we have this, we have this, just kind of showing off. And it was a great opportunity for me to be okay, there's a lot of things and I want to be a part of all of them.
I guess I can go next. I think for me, coming from Zimbabwe, I don't come from a rich family or anything like that. So, but I knew I wanted to study in the States just for the sake of getting better education compared to Zimbabwe. But my main the main thing that I was looking for was for schools that were gonna give me probably the biggest scholarship that available. That was the main decision criteria for me. And it so happened that Worcester was the only school that gave me a scholarship that was over 35,000. And I'm really grateful for that. And that's why I ended up here. There's no any other reason that I can say was the main reason that made me choose Worcester.
Yeah, for me, similar as how kind of everyone's been saying, financial aid was a really big part of that. And Worcester was really helpful throughout that entire admissions process, explaining how the scholarships work and just how financial aid works, and being able to answer all of my questions and all of my parents' questions was really helpful throughout that entire process. And just knowing all of the numbers and everything, so I could see all of my options and know that Worcester was honestly the best out of a private schools that we're looking at in terms of scholarships and financial aid. So that kind of drew me in. Also from more of just a student perspective, as a person who is a religious person, as a minority, following a religious minority, also as a queer student, I knew that I wanted a school that was going to help me support that, and I would feel comfortable and have my community here. And Worcester, through tours and staying the night and just meeting with students, they were able to just really help quell a lot of my nervousness and fears towards that, and show me there is a community of people here that like come from like a multitude of backgrounds and identities, and like you will find a home here and you'll find a community, and like everyone will be able to like support you through that and like be very accepting and tolerant of you. So those are kind of the bigger things, but Worcester really showed me that like you can find a home here and like they're going to help you through like every step of the way.
Definitely like what everyone else has said, like financial aid is a really big thing because I'm a low income student. And, you know, like one of the most worrisome things about schooling is like, is it going to be accessible to me? And like everyone deserves to go to school regardless of their socioeconomic status. So like the financial aid package that I got is like one of the main reasons that I'm here, because it made college so much more accessible than it would have been at the other schools I applied and got accepted into. And Worcester wasn't even on my radar, but then I put in like that niche little website and it popped right up and said, this is a good place for you. And it really is, because I'm also a queer student and I wanted to be in a place where those were accepted, because at my old school, that wasn't like really a big thing. I was like the first person to come out at my entire school is like not cisgendered or straight. So I was like, oh, I would rather not be the only one. And it's really nice to have like such a big queer community at Worcester. And that's also a big reason of why I'm here. Cause like I toured in the summer, but even the sort of students that I did see like while just like walking around when it wasn't that populated during COVID summer, it was so nice to see all the different types of people like walking around and like knowing that there were other queer students here. And just like feeling like I would have a home in that sense here. So that's also another big reason. And also it's really pretty and I really like black squirrels. So that's a big reason too.
Awesome. That is definitely great to hear. And how did Tom Cruise say in that one movie, show me the money? So no, I definitely resonated with all of what everyone has said. And, you know, we are going to talk later on in this event and in this session, just the application process, the financial aid process, and just ways that you can get a little bit more informed when it comes to making a financial decision of this magnitude of going to college. So yeah, moving right along to another question, and it kind of goes in line with a question that we do have in the Q&A. Someone asked, can you describe your first day at Worcester? But I think a little bit further than that, I wanted to ask all of you, can you talk not only about your first day, but what your first year experience was like? You know, did you feel like there was good support from your classmates, from faculty, from staff, resources to really help first year students make that transition from high school into college?
Yeah, I can speak on that. So technically my freshman year wasn't a year, it was a semester and a couple weeks because COVID hit and they decided, you know what, you should just stay home after spring break. And I didn't really get the opportunity to have a full freshman year. And even then I had an opportunity to have a real sophomore year. Now I'm a junior and I'm like 1 year in and I'm like, whoa, I'm about to be a senior. I'm about to leave. This is so weird. But in that concept, my freshman year, my freshman semester, that's what I will be as much explaining, was a very fun time on not just knowing people, but knowing yourself. Especially in my case, I'm very family oriented. I come from a very traditional Hispanic household. I'm used to having 13 plus people in my house every single day to having just me and my roommate in one room. It's really weird. So having that opportunity, finding have not just privacy, but also like the concept of you're your own adult now, you're gonna do your own adult things and you have to make that decision. You can't just rely on somebody else telling you what to do. You have to do it yourself. That was something that I was going through my first semester here in Worcester. I was going through figuring out, okay, well, I have to eat. So I have to wake up early enough to go get breakfast before class. I just can't wake up 5 minutes before class. I have to do like my laundry. I have to do all these things. Like it was a bunch of checklists of like, okay, I am now a living being adult. Let me let me try my best and let's see what happens. And I was trying like that entirety of the semester, figuring out, okay, like who am I? Who am I as a person? What do I like? Who are the people that I'm surrounded by? What communities do I fit in here in Worcester? What groups, etc. And it was just that kind of transitioning of meeting people, like leaving other people and kind of like pushing myself in different directions. And eventually, like now I ended up in this position where I'm in everything, but at the same time, it's everything that I choose to be in. And that's something that you don't realize in college is like you choose who you want to hang out with. Just because you meet them doesn't mean they're going to be your forever friendships. But even then, these friendships are always going to be there if necessary. And these connections and network wise was a great opportunity. And Worcester, like first semester was a great moment for me to like kind of branch in different ways and then finally figuring out what I like.
I can speak on that too. For me, I had an in-person whole first year, and I was coming from high school. I've been in a boarding school as well, so I was kind of used to just being, just being independent and stuff like that. So it wasn't much of an adjust for me, just like in terms of different lifestyles. It was pretty much the same thing I did in high school. I think the only thing that I found uncomforting was probably just the fact that you're just dumped into a space where there's everybody who's different from you. At the same time, you're just supposed to, make friends. You're supposed to get involved and stuff like that. But I was fortunate enough that my first year also, that's when I joined Men of Harambe. And for me, I think that was a big source of, friends, as well as just to just build confidence in myself and some level of comfort. But I think the general experience was very good. I was able to make friends. I mean, it's so easy for people to know you. It's so easy to know many people that don't know you as well, because it's a small campus, But I think in general, my experience, I was already used to living by myself, so I was pretty comfortable just being in a foreign land, and I was able to make friends mainly through an organization that I joined. I would say.
Okay, well, I guess we can move on to another question. Great input, by the way, guys, and we do have questions in the Q&A that have been great. Keep them coming because we definitely enjoy talking about and just answering some of the questions that you are all really wanting to ask. And Alexa, Micah, there was a question in the chat that talked a little bit about, or they were glad to hear about the queer community at Worcester and just you know hoping that it is an accepting community. So can you talk a little bit about how accepting of queer students is Worcester, and also how is the involvement? What kind of involvement opportunities do queer students have on campus?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So as a queer student, I was, worried about going into college. I went from a very small high school. It was a religious high school, and we didn't really talk about it much. And there wasn't really any other queer LGBT students. I was one of the very few. And so when I went to college, I was just like, I just want to meet other people who have different the same life experiences and just like a similar perspective as I do. And when I came to Worcester, I found that immediately. I mean, the first week or so, I met my main group of friends, and they were all queer students. And it was just really nice to have this group of friends that just kind of knew the same life experiences, and just kind of you just felt very comfortable around them. And then now being a junior, I continue just to meet amazing queer people literally every day in my classes and the clubs that I'm a part of, and just at work or in just walking around. It's just really nice that you can just look around in your classes or really any room that you're in and just see other queer people just living just very proud of themselves, and just being very comfortable and knowing that you're not alone in that space. So I've never had any issues being a queer student. I've always just been very accepted, and honestly, it's just been a wonderful experience, just become more confident in my identity through seeing other people be confident in theirs. So it's been a wonderful experience as a queer student, honestly.
For me, navigating campus as a queer student has been it's been interesting, good, but interesting because I'm a trans student, and there are a bunch of different processes that I have to go through, just change some certain things, make it all fit right. And Worcester has been very accommodating of that, because I can just be hey, I'm gonna change my name, and then I got 3 emails about what else do they want me to change, can I change X, Y, and Z, and I'm let's just go ahead. I got my new ID yesterday. Like, it's very fast if you want to change something. So that's been really good. Because I am so impatient, and like as soon as I figure out something, I'm like, let's change it, and they're like, okay, we need 24 hours, but it's all fine. It's just been really good being a trans student on campus. Students are really accepting, and on the off chance that someone else isn't great, every other student is like, hey, actually, we're gonna correct that, and then they're like, oh, okay. So it's not like there's not like a culture of being silent about like when people like make mistakes like that or like misgender you or something. Someone else is always going to stand up for you on the off chance that something icky does happen. So that's just been really good, because like being a trans student can always be like a little scary, because it's like a different experience than like just being like maybe like bisexual or something, because like you have to be addressed like with different pronouns, what people might assume. But on campus it's been really good, and I've definitely gravitated towards a lot of other queer students, and like professors are really good about it. So like overall Worcester is definitely very accepting of like queer students, and like being a trans student on campus hasn't like made me feel especially like othered or anything. I'm just a student on campus who happens to be trans. So
All right. Well, there are still plenty of other questions on the Q&A. And another one that was asked is, how is diversity reflected in Worcester's faculty and staff? Well, they hired me. I'm here. And no, that's just a little inside joke that I always like to say with new staff and faculty that I meet and just people that I talk to. But I think no, that definitely is a piece of it. I mean, you want to see faculty, staff that come from different wakes of life and that are people that represent different multicultural, ethnicities or backgrounds or just experiences. And I am a first generation Mexican American young man who was the first in my family, not just only to go to college, but to graduate high school. So I pretty much had to really navigate that process all on my own. Thankfully, I had a lot of great help later on along the way. But that's neither here nor there. I think the big thing is that Worcester's commitment to hiring faculty and staff, or at least try to do so a lot more now, is something that is going to be a big piece of it, because I think students really want to and feel comfortable just being able to talk to and interact with just different types of people, and people that may look like them, people that may have similar experiences like them, or at least have had similar struggles. So I think from a staff standpoint, that's where I stand, and something that I definitely enjoy, that Worcester brought me on board. But you as students, what are some of the experiences that you've had? How have you seen diversity reflected in the faculty and staff? And also academically, were there courses, that you took or that of that really allowed you or allow students to broaden their understanding of just different topics of diversity?
Yeah, so I mean, Worcester does a great job. They're very intentional of trying to bring in a lot of diversity in our faculty and staff and administration. One thing that is very real is that we live in rural Ohio, so it is kind of harder to attract diversity out in this town where we live. Worcester does its best. I wouldn't say that, we have tons and tons of diverse faculty and staff. I would say that we do have a good number, definitely not more than probably any of the schools in the city. But the professors that I've met that are from diverse backgrounds are very, very passionate about what they do. They're very encouraging to their students. They're just here to support us. Again, with us being a liberal arts college, we have to take a wide variety of classes. So that means, you may take 2 history classes, 2 foreign language classes, English, the whole 9 yards. We offered this teacher, actually in this picture, when she was here, offered a Racism 101 class, and that was one of them that I took for one of my credits. And it was an absolutely amazing class. I was a little bit shocked to walk in my first day and it was mostly white students, but I reminded myself it's a PWI, and all of the students were just there to learn. Everyone was very open about where they had come from and what they were experiencing at the time. It was also at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement a couple of years ago. So yeah, I think the school's done a great job of trying to introduce a lot more diversity.
Any other questions?
Yeah, yeah, I think I can add on to the in terms of how they introduce diversity through the curricula that they have here at the college. I took African Studies, I think my sophomore year, and I think it was really interesting to see how people were comfortable enough to open up and talk about the history of America and stuff like that. Like, for me, I think that is a big statement, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the school is also trying to encourage or make a requirement for students to take should be racism 101 or this specific class that talks about race and stuff like that. And I think that's also something that's very important, that at least if someone you're passing through college, at least you get an opportunity to have at least 3 months talking about something that truly affects a lot of Americans. Yeah.
Okay, well, that I think answers that question in the Q&A, but just to move it right along to another question, someone did ask, what accessibility options are there for students who may have physical or mental disabilities? Also, if it is known, what percentage of the student body has mental or physical disabilities? To be honest, I'm not sure that number is available to us, or if it is, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I don't want to, just give a guess out on that. But I do know that our Academic Resource Center does work with students and provide disability support services for students that need any kind of accommodations or services to really make an inclusive and just accessible campus community for all students. So that's my point on that. But as current students, do you know anything about the Academic Resource Center, or just ways that office has been able to provide accommodations for students who have physical or mental disabilities?
I know I can talk a little bit about it. A lot of my friends, and like myself included, we're all neurodivergent. So like we're all either on the spectrum or have like ADHD, and that could come with a lot of different academic accommodations that we need, or like different like just like living accommodations that we might need. Like my friend needs a single, and they communicated that with like the school after like getting their like medical papers and be like, hey, and Worcester was like, okay, cool. And like if you would like a service animal and stuff like that, you're perfectly allowed to. And like the Academic Resource Center is more than happy to work with you about that. Like even if you don't have like a formal diagnosis and need accommodations, you could just go on down to the Academic Resource Center and they'll be like, okay, let's see what we can do, like working within all of this. And like they have different testing spaces that my friends utilize, because a lot of my friends just like can't test in the normal classroom because it doesn't work for their brain. And Worcester's like, all right, we're gonna go with that and we're gonna help you out. So like Worcester, just because your brain works differently isn't just gonna leave you out of everything, because they want every single type of student to come here, and part of that is caring for those students. So definitely it's accessible here for students with like mental disabilities. But we are currently working on bettering ourselves with like being ADA accessible. That's why we're renovating Lowry right now, because Worcester recognizes that like our school's kind of really old, and we got to fix that. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're renovating a lot of stuff right now to like make sure everyone with like physical limitations can get around, because everyone lives here. We're 99% residential. Got to make sure everyone can actually be moving around. So those are my thoughts on that.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, that's just one resource available to students. We also have a great wellness center that has, on-call physicians, registered nurses, as well as mental health counselors available to students that need, mental health counseling. So that's just another resource for students that just, if they need any kind of, physical, mental, or any kind of help with their physical or mental health. So two great centers, a lot of other resources as well. And I think when you combine all of these, it does provide students with a great opportunity to just make sure that they're taking care of themselves, because college can definitely be a daunting time. And through stressful academic experiences, trying to get acclimated, or just anything really, you want to make sure that you're putting your mental and physical health at the forefront. don't burn yourself out too much and making sure that, you are taking care of yourself. So yeah. All right. So it does have there's another question in the chat. All right. So someone did ask, how is housing like for trans students? But I think I want to open this up a little bit and just talk about housing. How was your housing experience in your first year? How has housing been, moving forward? I know with COVID, that might not have been the most interactive and just well-rounded experience that you could have had, but in the limited experiences that you've had living on campus, how has the residence hall experience been like, and what kind of residence hall options are there for students?
Oh, Julie, do you want to go? Okay. So I can just talk briefly about like housing as a trans student. We have a bunch of different housing options, but when you're first signing up for housing here, after you commit on all that, you can opt into all gender housing. And that's our gender inclusive housing here. So you can live with men, women, non-binary people, just everyone within and outside of the gender spectrum. So that is a very good option. Sorry, my roommate looked at me. And so that's a really good option. That's where I currently live right now. Because it's really nice to have that community being a trans student on campus and just living with people who get it, because it's hard being a trans student sometimes because we got a whole bunch of different things going on. But Worcester specifically develops all gender housing throughout different floors and stuff. To just make sure everyone's integrated. You're not othered for wanting to live at all gender, but you're still get the opportunity to have a community of other students like you, to make living more comfortable. So as a trans student, just makes it a lot more easy to be there. But also, if you don't want to live in all gender housing, you're not going to get put into it. So it all just depends on your comfort level. And in housing, you can put your own little message about what genders you're comfortable living with, if that's a consideration you need. So that's about being trans and housing here. So
I was pretty much going to say the same thing. I think the only thing I was going to add is even if you don't live in the all gender housing facility, you also have all gender bathrooms everywhere in campus, and a lot of the housing and accommodations, and also in the academic quads and all these areas, you have a space if need be when it comes to the bathroom or stuff like that, or taking a shower. Even if you're just uncomfy, you don't want to shower in a communal bathroom. I do that all the time. I would love to just sing in the shower or cry in the shower if that's what you want to do. I'm not going to lie, but it'll be great to have your own little space to do that. So yeah, that was the only thing I would think I was gonna add on to what Micah was saying.
Okay, so I think there was, let me see, another question on here. Okay, so I think we might be typing in the chat, but I did want to, be able to provide our current students the opportunity to talk about this a little bit, because one of my questions that I wanted to ask is what first started with valuing real and transparent conversations at Worcester. And that's something that I bring with my own experiences and my own interactions with students. I'm never one to sugarcoat anything. And I do, if there's something that I strongly feel about, I share those experiences and those perspectives. But to be honest, I've only been at Worcester for two and a half months. So I haven't been able to really interact and meet a lot of the campus community members and the local community members within the city of Worcester. So, in the short time that I've been here, my experience has been fine. On campus, I meet great people that are very welcoming and open. In town, I've never been, bothered. But again, I am self-aware enough to know that that's just my experience. So if any one of our student panelists, if you're comfortable sharing, how have you felt not only on the campus community environment, but the local community environment, incorporating any experiences that you've had within the city of Worcester? We understand we're in rural Northeast Ohio. We also recognize that our college is a predominantly white institution with, a quarter of our students being students of color, 17% being international. That's all great and fine, but how do these numbers or do these stats or just your own personal experiences make you kind of interact with campus community members and local community members.
I think I can speak up on that perspective because for me, you're going to have to remember that we are still in America. That is a big thing. We are surrounded by a lot of different like methodology, like ideology, all these things. And there's people who are very strong opinionated for one way and very strong opinionated for other ways. And that is completely fine. That's what America is. You're supposed to have all these strong opinions. Now, sometimes it can get a little bit overstepped or it can be a little bit problematic if you're not very careful with that. I am a minority student. I know my privileges and I know my not privileges. I know what's going to happen if I walk down the street by myself. I am female. I identify as female. That is also something that is that comes up. If I walk down the street at 3 a.m, really late after coming to the library, like after studying really hard, like that is a risk that I'm taking sometimes because it's just the way America works. And I feel like a lot of the times and I would call a friend or have a friend walk with me in that situation, and I have to be careful because there's just you doesn't necessarily matter what happens. If you are female, you're a risk. If you're male, you're a risk. If you are this or that, like it doesn't necessarily matter who you are. If you're a human being and you identify as something and you're unique in your own way, you're still going to be either have like issues with people not liking your ideology, having people discriminate you, having racist comments, having all this stuff. It's just how life is going to work, sadly. And it's something that, especially is like in Ohio, you're going to experience. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. You are in Ohio, it's a rural area. And currently we are this very much open-minded community surrounded by a very conservative community, and it's gonna happen no matter what. If you leave the campus, you're gonna see people stare at you, you're gonna see people like make comments, but it's not everybody. And that's something that you're also going to realize. It's not everybody, and it's a lot more than you thought it was going to be, but it's not everybody. There's some really, really sweet locals here that I'm very much close friends with, and there's some that I stay away from. It's just the way it's going to work as a minority and as just somebody as a student, especially if you're not from Ohio.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about, sorry if I interrupted someone. Um, but um, but yeah, I can talk a little bit more about Julie's point. Obviously, I'm coming from the perspective as someone who is white and has the privilege of being white in a predominantly white campus and just in the outer communities. So obviously, my perspective is a little bit different, and I have the privilege of that. But as someone, who is visibly religious, and kind of doesn't look like a lot of people do in this kind of area, even on campus sometimes, as a woman. And then, if I'm walking with my partner or something, I'm visibly, queer, and I'm visibly, in a queer relationship. And I know there was a question on that in terms of like discrimination against that kind of group of people specifically. And it's not to say, kind of like Julia was talking about how, it's not perfect. I would say that the college campus is definitely kind of in its own little bubble compared to the outside Worcester community. On campus, you'll be completely fine. I've never had any issues with students in terms of like discrimination, or I mean, it's not to say that I never get any weird looks because I look different. Some people just aren't used to that. But you get used to it after a while. And honestly, the vast majority of people are like so accepting and so supportive that it's like somewhat overwhelming of how kind people are. So on campus, I'm usually pretty fine, but it's when you go off of campus or when it's late at night or something that you do, start to worry, calling a friend, making sure you're walking with someone, just being on the lookout. But, me and my partner, we went out this weekend out, on the town. I was dressed like this. I was holding my partner's hand. We're in a visibly queer relationship, and everything was fine. Nobody said anything. Everything was all good. We had so many people smile at us, locals and stuff. So it's not to say that it's perfect. It's not to say that I'm never worried, but I've also had really nice experiences on and off campus. So, it's just kind of pros and cons, I don't know if it would be perfect really anywhere, but at least you feel safe on campus, or at least I do most of the time.
Okay. Well, I think with time, that is the time that we're going to allow to the Q&A questions. Student panelists, I want to thank you all for not only sharing your perspectives, but also being very, open about your experiences and what you think of Worcester, but, just how everything has kind of incorporated into your overall college experience. Hopefully the prospective students and families that we have on with us today have gotten not only a sense of who we are, what we offer, academically and through the admissions office, but how that all plays out when students actually get here. So yeah, it's been great, and thank you all for being here. Now, continuing with the presentation, I know time is of the essence, but I do want to share a few. First, the thank you slide. These are our great student panelists, names, emails, in case you want to reach out, ask them any specific questions as well. I know they are very enjoying of having prospective students reach out to them and just following up with any prospective students. So I'll give just a few seconds for you, anyone that wants to get their contact info right there. All right. So very briefly, just talking about our application process and our financial aid process, okay? Now, we do have 3 major rounds of application. One is the early decision. Now, that is a binding decision as long as the financial piece does work with students and families. Now, the great thing about early decision is that students are notified really early in the process. So if students in the first round of the early decision process, if they apply by November 1st, they are notified within 2 weeks on November 15th. So it's a great chance to see, are you going to be accepted to Worcester, what that is going to all entail. And for those of you that are really sure about your decision and sure about Worcester being the place for you, I highly recommend going through the early decision process. But again, only if it works out for you. Now, we do have a second round of early decision, and that is by January 15th, with decisions being on February 1st. The second presentation, I'm in the presentation. The second round of application is the early action, which is still a great opportunity for students, probably where we see most students apply, just because there is no binding aspect to it, but students still get a relatively quick turnaround in terms of decisions. So students do have to apply by November 15th, and they are notified of the decision before or by December 31st. So we usually say around the holiday season or mid to late December. So just a few ways. We do have regular decision as well. That one is for students that wanted to take their time with their application process. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you want to include your senior year experiences, or if you wanted to just have the opportunity to learn more about colleges. Regular decision is a good route for those students. For that, students do have to apply by February 15th, and decisions do go out by April 1st. So just a few ways that students can apply for admission. All right. Now, kind of tying in with the application process, our admissions office is a very holistic review, or a very holistic office in terms of how we look at an applicant. So if you provide your application credentials, your transcripts, essay recommendations, all that really does factor into the decision. And if a student, has the opportunity to be accepted, we do have a few merit-based scholarship offerings for them. The primary one being our Dean Scholarship, which can go up to $37,000 annually for that one award. Now, we do have a few competitive scholarships that will then replace the Dean Scholarship, and that being our College Scholar Award or our Allen Scholarship Award, which is for students of African-American backgrounds. So that is a few merit-based scholarship opportunities. Now, we do have a few performance-based scholarships as well. So students that were interested in music, theater, and dance, Scottish arts with our campus being very big on the Scottish arts, especially the bagpipes. And as someone that came from Philadelphia, I did not understand the affinity for bagpipes, and you either love it or you hate them, but it's a very big piece of our campus kind of culture and just history and tradition. So yeah, in the end, these are a few performance-based scholarships that students can apply for, audition for, and get on top of the merit-based scholarship of either the deans or the competitive. So yeah, if you have any questions, concerns about any one of these opportunities, you can always reach out to your admissions counselor if you've gotten emails from them, our general admissions office as well, and we'll be able to answer and help you along the way. All right, now a big resource for students and something that should definitely be talked about is a tool that we have in our office called the Early Aid Estimator. Now this, think of it as a net price calculator, but so much more than that, because it's pretty spot on. It's very accurate depending on the information that you provide on that estimator. And all in all, if a student gives pretty accurate information in terms of their academics, they can also get need-based aid review as well if they enter in some optional personal information. And this pretty much gives students a very personalized, still projected, but very close aid award for both merit-based aid review and need-based aid review as well. Now that is live and running, and it will go until November. And typically students that complete this estimator do get a response within 3 weeks. So this is a great resource for students that might not know what the financial piece looks like, or if the finances are a big piece of your college search process. This will give you a sense of what to expect financially and allow you and your family to really see if a Worcester education is something that can be feasible financially. So again, that is definitely a great resource, and we did just add it to the chat as well. So if you wanted to go on there, if you wanted to submit an estimator, if you wanted to just learn a little bit more about what it entails, make sure that you head over to that link and check it out on our website, okay? Now, when it does come time to apply, and if you do apply for need-based aid, we are on the FAFSA and the FAFSA application, which is the federal application for federal student aid. That does become available to students in their senior year on October 1st. So after that, you can head over to FAFSA.gov, complete a FAFSA application, and that also will allow you to see what kind of need-based aid we can provide as a school. And there is a school code for us on there. Typically, when you search for a college, the school code just populates, but in case you need it, there it is. All right, so I know I went a little quick with the last piece of it because of our timing on the Q&A, but a few ways that you can kind of think about what are some of the next steps and ways that you can engage with us and kind of further the process for you with Wooster. This has been a great experience for you. You were able to really learn a little bit more in depth about who we are and what we have to offer. But we do have other virtual experiences, virtual tours. We also have in-person visits as well. So if you wanted to take the opportunity to either meet virtually or in person again, head over to our website, worcester.edu/visits to see all the different visit opportunities. That is the website for our estimator, which was shared earlier in the chat. Ways that you can apply. Now we are on the Common App, so if that's something that you wanted to pursue, you definitely can. We are test optional as well, so we don't require SAT or ACT scores as part of the academic credentials, but if you wanted to submit them, you are more than welcome to. Like I said, we're very holistic when it comes to reviewing applications, so even when we considered scores, it still was one piece of the application. So now we kind of take everything else into account a little bit more for those students that don't choose to submit the test score, since it is optional. It's not on here, but if you are checking out our visit opportunities on our website, we do have a in-person multicultural open house next month on Saturday, October 30th, and that will run in the afternoon from about 12:30 to 4:15. And that's something that you might want to consider if you have the opportunity to do so. Like I said, it's October 30th, so you still have more than a month to think about it. It is in person. Yeah, you'll have the ability to tour campus, see our facilities, some of the things that we've talked about in this session in person and for yourself. You'll be able to hear from other students on campus as well. We will have some great faculty or great staff resources available to students, talking with prospective students and families during that event. So just another great way to connect with Worcester in a diversity and inclusion perspective, but in person. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely highly recommend doing so. But yeah, I think that was the last piece that we had for you. I want to thank all the prospective students and families that have joined us. Student panels, Doug, Julie, Alexa, Sean, Micah, thank you so much for joining us. And it's always a pleasure to have you on. And David in the background has been kind of our Q&A and chat guru. So thank you, David, as well. And if there is nothing else, I will let everyone go and have a great rest of your night. Yeah.